Okay, I thought I'd like to show you how I came up with a method for storing my rubber stamps and being able to locate them. And of course, like everybody else, I've got all kinds of rubber stamps, both on cling and wood mounted. And so what I decided to do, you could number them, I suppose, put them in drawers with the numbers on them. I kind of did that with my punches at one time, and you want to know something? They never stay in order anyways. So I thought, well, what else can I do? Now, I'd seen that people had taken the cling ones and they had put them on a piece of acetate, just a overhead transparency kind of thing, and put them in a file folder. But I wanted to know how I could have ready access to all of my stamps, find them without having to leaf through pages and pages in a binder or going through a whole bunch of drawers looking for my wood-mounted stamps. So what I came up with was this method. I have a recipe box here, a card recipe box, and inside with your standard index cards. What I did was, on these cards, I stamped images from each of my rubber stamps, and I labeled them according to a category. So for example, I have some pulled out here. These are flower stamps, and what I did was I just stamped as many as I could get on a card, and I labeled it. And I simply labeled this one Flowers 1. Now this corresponds to the sheet, the acetate sheet, that has those images on it. So here's the sheet. And you can see up here it says Flowers 1. And this is just an overhead transparency. I put a little colored piece of cardstock in behind so it'll show up on the video. And these are all my flower stamps. Actually, I have more than one page. They don't all fit on one page that I have. So if you notice, I called this Flowers 1, same with the card, but I have another card in there that also says Flowers 1, and it has more of the designs that are on this sheet until this sheet fills up. So I might have 3 or 4 cards all labeled Flowers 1. I didn't bother to number each stamp because I think it's pretty obvious that I can find them. If I can go to Flowers 1 sheet, I'm sure I can find that image on the corresponding sheet. Now, what about the case, though, with those stamps that are already pre-mounted on wood? Well, they sit in a bunch of drawers that I have for rubber stamps. So what I did with that is I stamped them on the index card, and I labeled it the same as I labeled this first one, except whatever stage I got into, like how many cards up, I just continued the numbering. So this is Flowers 5, so card number 5 in the index file under Flowers. But in brackets I put MS, and that stands for mounted stamp. That way I know I don't go to the acetate sheet, I go to the drawer and find my stamp in there. Now, it's a very simplistic method, but I find what it does is it saves me time. It also allows me the opportunity to go through and, you have a tendency to forget what you have if you have a lot of stamps. So by having the images on the cards and in different categories, I can go through and find, my background stamps, and I know where they're located. Or I can see also what they're going to look like when they're actually stamped onto an actual project. The other thing that I did was, with all of these cards that I have in this file, I took the cards, I put them on my scanner, and I scanned them. And then I simply printed out pages showing these cards on them. You can get, depending on how small you go with the scan, you can get 5 or 6 of these cards on one sheet that you print out. And I have a little inventory book that I take with me every time I go hunting for supplies. I have a tendency to forget what I've bought in the past, and that has cost me some money and some waste of time as well, because I ended up with duplicates. In some cases I actually ended up with 3 of the same thing, because there were maybe months or in some cases years between when I bought an item and when I found it again and I'd forgot that I had it. So I keep everything in a little booklet, and I would show you the booklet right now, the actual one, except that I've just put in some more stuff in it that has to do with crackle paint and its drawing. But it's just one of these kind of little notebooks. I tab the pages with those sticky tabs you can get, label them whatever's on the page, and I list as I go along what supplies I have bought. So in that book, I took the pages that I scanned from here and I folded them in half and glued them into the booklet. So when I go shopping for rubber stamps, if I'm not sure if I have that particular one that I see, I go into my book, I'll look through my pages that I've scanned, and I don't end up spending a lot of money on something I already own. So that's how I do my rubber stamp organization. There's probably other methods out there that are better than this, but this one seems to work for me, so I thought I'd share it with you.